Hello, my name is Gwen, and this is my informative speech from Mrs. Stacy Duke's Business Communications class at Bryan College. I've worked in the credit union industry for over 20 years. I've seen several things change during this time, from all the technology advancements to the real estate market crash that caused a lot of credit unions, small and large, to have serious financial problems. I would like to share my workload with you, and to do this I need to give you a history and a background of credit unions in general so that might help you understand why I think so much of a credit union. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines a credit union as a credit cooperative formed by a group of people with some common bond who, in effect, save their money together and make low-cost loans to each other. From the Credit Union Difference website, I found that the first credit union sprang up in the early 19th century in England, but the credit unions that we're familiar with started showing up in Germany in the mid-1800s. These credit unions were democratically governed. Each member had one vote, no matter the size of the deposit. There was a member-elected board of directors, and they were all volunteers. The German Credit Union was established to help the German farmers purchase livestock and other things they would need for their farms. The concept of credit unions crossed the Atlantic in the early 20th century. In 1909, a group of Franco-American Catholics from Manchester, New Hampshire, organized the St. Mary's Cooperative Credit Association. Organizers of the credit union formed the credit union because they realized that outrageous interest rates were being charged by loan sharks, and they wanted to organize something that would help provide some relief for the working class. This became the first credit union in the United States. Through the years, other credit unions started springing up across the nation, and in the 1920s, when the COMA started to show an upswing, the credit union movement became increasingly popular. People had more money to save and were wanting to make some large purchases. For the people of this time, a washing machine was a large purchase. At the time, commercial banks and savings institutions were not really interested in offering consumers credit, so it caused the credit union movement to grow even more. According to the NCUA website, around the 1930s there were approximately 1,100 credit unions across the United States. There were different state laws that governed the credit union, but in 1934, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed the Federal Credit Union Act into law. This act created a national system to charter and to supervise federal credit unions. Credit unions grew steadily through the 40s and 50s, and by the 1960s, membership into the credit unions had grown to more than 6 million individuals, and there were more than 10,000 federal credit unions. During this time period, the credit unions adopted a logo that the working class could relate to, the little man with the umbrella. Credit unions were trying to show that they were there during hardship that the little man had to face, hard times, sickness, and financial distress. According to CU History Blogspot, this logo has been retired for many years, but you can still see a print of the little man with the umbrella at some of the local institutions in our area. This logo pretty much stands for what the credit unions stand for. The credit unions are there to have your back and be there during rough times. In the 1970s, the National Credit Union Administration, or NCUA, was formed as an independent federal agency. At this time, Congress also created the National Credit Union Insurance Fund, or NCUSIF, to protect the members' deposits that they have in the credit union. If you're not familiar with a credit union, banks are insured by the FDIC, where the credit unions are insured by NCUA. As the nation has grown during the years, credit unions have had to grow with the nation. Credit unions have had to expand their services with the nation's growth. They have had to add such services as share certificates, mortgages, and in the last several years they've had to come into the technology era. Most credit unions offer all forms of communications with their members. They have electronic banking and mobile banking, just to name a few. Like many businesses, with all the additions and advancements, there does come some fallbacks that has happened in the last 5 years or so. Due to the steep drop in the global financial markets triggered the most severe economic downturn since the Great Depression. This caused a lot of people to lose their jobs, have to file bankruptcy, and a lot of homes have had to be foreclosed upon. And with these things happening, it started taking a toll on the credit unions. NCUA decided to be proactive when these things started happening. They worked with Congress, the Federal Reserve, and the U.S. Department of Treasury and other authorities to help safeguard the credit union system. While NCUA was working to make sure the credit unions were sound, some of the largest or corporate credit unions had invested in troubled mortgage-backed securities, and these losses ended up making 5 of the larger corporate credit unions insolvent. This has caused a great toll on the credit unions in general. During this time, NCUA stayed in touch with all the credit unions, and any decisions that were made were done by consensus. I ended up getting to be party to some of these meetings, and I got to see firsthand how NCUA was looking out for the little man. Credit unions and NCUA agreed not to have any government intervention. One reason this was decided on was that credit unions wanted to stay member-owned, and if the government intervened, this would stop. It was voted on and passed that credit unions would help each other out of their bind that they'd found themselves in. A stabilization fund was established, and each credit union has agreed to help pay back the different costs over time. Each year, credit unions are given an idea of what their portion of this payment will be. Credit unions have survived over 100 years, and they appear to be going strong. Through history, they have shown that they will stand up for the little guy and for credit unions. Even in today's society, credit unions are still looking out for the little man. A popular saying in a lot of credit unions is the member comes first. This is part of the reason I enjoy my job. It seems that a lot of times credit union employees seem to have to bend over backwards to help their members. And at the end of the day, we do a lot, but our members first. And you feel good about yourself and feel that you're helping someone. This is why I enjoy working for the credit union.